Hi, I'm Peter Rose, founder of Longwood Currency Trading. Look, if Forex trading is so simple, like I say in all my videos and in the course that I teach, then why isn't everyone successful? That's what I'd like to chat with you about today. And one of the things that seems to be a problem with the folks that I talk with about what I say about Forex training is that it's simple. It is simple. How can I say that it's simple? Oh, I can say that it's simple because I've got a bachelor's degree in physics, almost a minor in math. I had a 33-year career as a senior software engineer doing complex design and analysis and coding of business applications programs. I've been involved in the martial arts for over 50 years, 57 years, something like that now, and actively taught it for 55 years. And that's a very complex process that I was able to make simple, and people's lives were at stake at that. And I've had people that have got back to me years later and say, hey, I'm really glad I had your training because I was able to save myself or a family friend from imminent disaster and physical confrontations, as well as just psychologically training, because when you sharpen the body, you sharpen the mind as well. And part of true martial arts training is to work in all phases of our development as people, as human beings. As Lao Tzu said, to know oneself is to know the 10,000 things. And that's what we study in the martial arts. So I've got the background that I understand something that's complicated from something that's simple, and how to take something that's complicated and make it simple. And the premise that I go on for proving the simplicity of the trading the Forex market is something that I did when I was a software engineer. We followed a process called the Software Development Lifecycle, the SDLC. It was a series of steps that were used against complex problems to simplify them and break them down into simpler problems, and then string those simple problems together into sequential order that created the solution set to the overall problem. That's the SDLC. So I borrowed that. I didn't borrow it, I ripped it. And I have what I call the life cycle of a currency position, because that's really what we're dealing with. And that life cycle obviously has the three phases of entry analysis, position management, and exit methodology. Those are problems. How do I trade? Here's how you trade. You learn entry analysis, you learn position management, and you learn exit methodology. Couldn't be any simpler than that. Oh, but Peter, exit or entry analysis, I'm getting stopped out all the time, blah, blah, blah. Well, okay, fine. Okay, fine. Entry analysis is a problem, but it's a discrete problem. It's condensed. There's no other issues in entry analysis. There's no exit analysis. There's no position management. It's just entry problem. That's one problem. And to each problem, there must be a solution, because that's all in accord with the process of the nature around us. You have the top side of a piece of paper and you have the bottom side of a piece of paper. If you were lacking one or the other, you wouldn't have a piece of paper. There's good and there's bad. You can't have all good and you can't have all bad. You have to have a flux, a flow between that. So between complexity, impossible, to simple, that a 2-year-old could solve it, neither one is one itself. There's a flow between those things. And there's a flow between your problem solution. If you have a problem, it must have a solution. If there's no solution, then there's no problem. I mean, there's solutions to all problems. Some problems can't be solved, but they can be mitigated. There's a problem of being in a car crash in your car. That's a huge problem, and it can't be solved. There's no solution to that. But you can mitigate it by wearing your seatbelt and, stopping on red and all the other stuff that we do when we drive our car. And so why would Forex trading be any different? Forex trading is a problem. So therefore, there must be a solution. How do you get to that solution? You get to it by decomposing it into entry analysis, position management, and exit methodology. And because those are discrete problems, they have a rule that can address that. You can't have a rule solve two problems. A rule solves one problem. If you try to have a rule solve two problems, you're in a mess. You don't know how to solve problems. So the life cycle of a currency position lays out for the students who take my fast track course a solution set of 3 problems to solve. Now, we could look at each one of those problems like entry analysis, and we could say, oh, that's a really complex issue. Yes, it is, but it's not as complex as the overall solution set to trading the Forex market itself. And so we look at that and we say, okay, if I'm going to write a rule to this, how should the rule be? Well, I might need 4 or 5 rules. No. One problem, one rule. What is a rule? Well, it could be a lot of things. Don't swing on Superman, close cover before striking, preheat oven to 350. Those are rules. But a real rule is something that is conditional based. And so each one of those problems, those phases in the life cycle of a currency position has a rule. And that each rule have conditions that must be satisfied in order for the rule to take effect. If I have a cake that I want to bake, I have a rule called a recipe, and I follow the steps and I get to the solution set and I have a cake. If I want an apple scented or whatever cake, I got to put apples in it and the recipe will call for that. In the solution of these discrete problems, such as entry analysis, we don't need an infinite amount of conditions. For example, in the fast track course that I teach, where I teach this entry analysis rule, I have 4 conditions. And they each return a binary state, either true or false. So if each condition in the rule is true, then the last condition is true, then the rule returns true, which is take the trade. If condition 1 is true and condition 2 is false, I'm done. I'm not going to take that trade because those conditions are in sequential order of importance. This is how you create a simple, organized system of solution to a problem. So is Forex trading simple? Yes, it's simple. Well, if it's so simple, then why isn't everyone successful? There's a joke about a lawyer, for example, who takes 3 pages and simplifies it into 20 pages of legalese. Why is that? Why is that simple? But that's what we all do. We take simple things and we make complex stuff out of them. I take a bunch of nuts and bolts and flanges and valves and shit, and I create an engine. An engine's a really complicated thing, but it's just made up of a bunch of simple parts. But if I don't understand the simple parts, if I don't understand the carburetor, and the thing starts to go wacky on me, how am I going to fix the engine? So you need to understand the parts, and you minimize the number of parts that are involved by reducing the problem that you're trying to solve. I want a carburetor to do certain stuff. I don't need to worry about the pistons with the carburetor. I just need to worry about what the carburetor is doing. And so too, in the solution of the life cycle of a currency position, it's entry analysis, position management, and exit methodology. 3 things that are in sequential order that make that simple. If I didn't have those 3 rules in sequential order, I would have 15 different permutations I could put those rules into, and it would be just a shit mess. But because they're in sequential order, there's only one path through it: entry analysis, position management, and exit methodology. Because you can't exit a trade that you haven't entered. So entry has to come before exiting. And if you don't have an entry, then you don't have anything to manage. Because if you have an exit, but you don't have anything to manage, then what are you exiting? You see what I mean? So we're taking complex stuff, which would be the lawyer's 20-page document, and we condense that out to language we can understand. trading process itself is inordinately complex. It's just that the complexity is driven by the simplicity. We don't drive the complexity because you can't. And that's why I think a lot of folks fail, is because they don't understand that the complexity is the system and that there are ways to simplify that to make it simple overall. If it was so simple, then why isn't everyone successful? It's probably because you're looking at the wrong problem to solve. And so much of the education that's out there is going to teach you what a pip is and how to size your bank and all that other kind of stuff. I don't teach any of that stuff. In the currency market, I've reduced the terminology and the things that you need to know to 7 simple things. 7, that's 7. Now, from there, each one of those 7 things might have 3 to 5 subcategories to it, but they're very easy to understand if you understand the key term. And so although I may be talking about 30 different things, all 30 things are really coalesced into 7 groups of related information that are in sequential order so that there's only 7 things that you need to learn. Because you're otherwise looking at the wrong problem to solve. So people start talking about, oh, this is how you trade. You use a Bollinger Band in relationship to the RSI, and it's Tuesday, and I don't know, you dance around and sing songs, and then you know how to take the trade. It's ludicrous, it's stupid. It doesn't mean the person that's telling you that is stupid, but they obviously don't know how to teach. And number 2, they themselves are not using what they're talking about, because they don't understand the problem that they were able to solve by simply losing enough money to understand what not to do. So if you want to continue to lose at your currency trading, it's just a matter of time and money before you figure out what not to do so that you stop losing. And once you stop losing, then you can learn how to succeed. That's the difficult way to do it. That's like pounding with a hammer and hitting your thumb all the time instead of having somebody come along and say, don't put your hand there. You don't need to have your hand there when you're hammering. You need to have your hand over here so that you can hammer. But if someone wasn't there to show you, to teach you, a mentor, a guide, how would you know? Well, you hit your thumb a few times and then you go, oh, I better not put my thumb here. Well, where should I put it? Now you're looking at a matrix of decisions that are unnecessary, that the teacher can come and give you that advice right away. So if you're looking at the wrong problem to solve in the first place, you're in this matrix of decision process that just simply will not hold up for you. You won't be successful at it because there's too much information. The problem with all of these courses and all these people that are trying to tell you how to trade is that they're providing you too much information. Well, not too much information. That isn't right. You need all the information that you need. No, you don't, not to start trading. If you're looking at the wrong problem, I'm trying to build a swimming pool, but I'm trying to solve the problem of water thermodynamics. It's not going to happen. So don't look at the wrong problem. Figure out the problem you need to solve. And the third part of this is not being successful at the simplicity of the market is because you're not following a valid process of solution. I just outlined a valid process of solution. Take a complex problem, break it into sequential individual problems. They each will have one rule to solve. Each one of those rules is a sequential condition, and the conditions that make up the rule are also in sequential order, such that each condition kicks off a binary result, not, oh, well, if it's raining out on Tuesday, then you can't take the trade. No, it's either you take the trade or you don't take the trade. That's what the rule returns to you. That makes it really simple. Otherwise, you're trying to do risk analysis in real time. And that's the first thing I teach in my fast track course, is you do not do risk analysis in real time. Well, Peter, how do I do that? Well, you got to take the course. I'm sorry, but you can't convey that in a video or in a book or whatever. The course is a manual, but you get my time in teaching it. That's why it's valid and it works. But I don't have a lot of students because everybody's looking for the entertainment and the secret sauce, and I don't have that. I just have work for you to do so that you can lay a good solid base of understanding of the problem that you're trying to solve. And then I provide the simple solution set for you in order to follow, in order for you to develop the rules that you're going to use in order to trade in the manner in which you need to trade in to achieve the goals that you set out for yourself. That's why Forex trading is simple. But it isn't going to be simple if you don't understand the valid process to go about learning that. So if you have any questions about this stuff, or you just like to chat about it in a little more detail, I'd be happy to set up a video conference with you. Just have to send me an email. Peter Rose, Longwood Currency Trading. Have a great day and have a great trading day.